If you're a Democrat and you're being mean to President Trump, I'm on your bumper.
That is DJ Daniel. He is spectacular, fighting cancer since he was a little child. He still is a little child, but since he was a baby, he's been fighting cancer. Obviously, we saw Donald Trump honor him, and we'll cover a little bit more of his interview in a little bit. So we got some more stuff coming up about Ukraine. We've got Donald Trump talking about daylight savings time. We've got some other foreign leaders talking about Ukraine. We got the ambassador or the special negotiator going to the Middle East, who's going to talk today. And then we see some more cringe from the left, which just seems like they can't stop. Welcome to another edition of Spark the Conversation. This is your host, Mark the Spark, bringing you today's news. Thank you for joining me today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share with a friend, leave a comment below. Let's get into it. So as we might as well get right to the full clip of DJ Daniel. Like I said before, he was at the speech, the president's speech the other night, and he clearly has a deep part of his heart for Donald Trump. And I always had a dream of being a law enforcement officer when he gets older. Hopefully he gets to see that reality come true when he gets to be an adult. Now, we obviously saw the left who were losing their mind over this kid yesterday. We know they couldn't clap for him. Even a story as heartwarming as his, they still couldn't celebrate that because they are too stuck within their Trump derangement syndrome. And, I actually had a discussion with somebody today about this, and they were saying, well, Donald Trump just doesn't act the part. He doesn't act professional. So, of course, the left needs to make a stand and not clap because he's such a danger to the country. And I couldn't get them to articulate what his danger was other than he just says things that they don't like, which is not good enough for me. But the idea that they are professional, like that whole argument would imply that the left acts professionally, which they do not. So, we saw that yesterday when we saw some of the after video, the response video of these people telling us how terrible the president is and acting crazy, foolish, and quite unprofessional on top of that. So I throw that argument right out. It does not hold water to me, but I think that most of America agrees with the fact that we're willing to let Donald Trump do some performative things, say some things that we'd consider not nice, just because it's better than the alternative, right? And we've kind of accept this is just who he is. It's kind of funny that when he was on TV in The Apprentice, he was basically the same character, and the left was totally fine with it. But now that he is in a position and doing things they don't like, which is mostly what it is, they're all of a sudden have an issue with it. So whatever. But this is the clip of DJ Daniel in an interview out in front of the White House.
Can I call you officer or agent, DJ Daniel, all of the above?
It really don't matter to me. I love women, so I don't care.
That's amazing. DJ Daniel, I want to ask you, first and foremost, do you love President Trump? And are you so excited to be here on the White House grounds?
Obviously, because I gave him a great note that says Donald Trump is the best president of the United States of America.
And why do you feel that way?
Because honestly, I honestly wanted to see Donald Trump in real life, and now it's actually came true. And to my friends, I know one of my friends told me to say this to Donald Trump, but I didn't say it to him. So good luck, buddy.
Last thing, because we know you got to bounce. What would your one piece of advice for the Secret Service be?
Please stop being mean to President Trump, because if I see you being mean to him, I'm coming after you.
I love that. I think you need to become the director of the Secret Service. DJ, it is such an honor to have met you.
Hold up, I got one more thing to say.
He has one more thing to say. I won't interrupt you.
If you're a Democrat and you're being mean to President Trump, I'm on your bumper.
You are about to go so viral, and you went viral last night.
I ain't gonna lie, I'm kind of acting like Miss Candace Matthews from Houston, Texas.
That's amazing. Do you have anything else that you want to say? You should just take my job at this point.
May bless America.
How about that, Steve? I think we
Amen.
found my replacement, your replacement.
Thank you.
Would you ever run for president?
I'm not sure. I'm a little bit too young. Well, really and truly, I'm not young. I'm a 13. I'm a 50-year-old trapped in a 50-year-old body. I might look 13, but I'm 50.
I love that, and it sounds like you gotta go. The War Room Posse loves you. It's an honor to have met you, sir.
I can't go yet because I see a little bald spot. I rub bald heads for good luck, if you know.
I think they want you to go, so I think you're gonna have to go.
Okay. Never mind.
Very nice to meet you.
DJ Daniel, so amazing.
I just
Absolutely
realized
incredible.
that that's the first
Thank
time I
you.
ever shook the woman's hand.
What a character. I let that go a little long just so you could see a little bit more of the personality of that kid. DJ Daniel is pretty amazing. And you can tell he gets a lot of personality from his father, at least, and maybe some other people in his life have rubbed off on him. So that is pretty cool to see. But again, the left couldn't clap for even that kid. And there's another clip yesterday. He was in the Oval Office. President Trump invited him and his father to the Oval Office. And he says, I got something to give you, President Trump. And he gave him a hug. So a really, really heartwarming story. Anyway, so to get to Ukraine, there's been some updates. And Vladimir Zelensky has gone back and forth on whether he's ready for a peace deal or not. And I think what happened was he said he had a bunch of attitude. He met with the Democrats. He met with some Democrats before he met with President Trump. And I think they filled him with a bunch of lies and set him up for failure in the meeting with President Trump. And so then he had an attitude going into that meeting. And then when he left there, he just thought he was going to go to Europe and these European countries, and they were going to give him what he wanted. But the European countries are like, wait a minute, we're not doing this without the U.S. We need them to be a player in all this. And so he was surprised, and he had to come groveling back to Trump. Now, Trump said, hey, look, if you're not going to make a deal with me, this isn't going to go on forever. I'm going to raise the ante, because that's what Trump does. He makes deals by applying leverage, which the United States has quite a bit of. So he applied the leverage. And so Zelensky basically had no choice at that point and has to come back again and sign the deal that Trump wants him to sign, which was always going to be the case. So now we've got some more updates on that, because Donald Trump has withheld he's withheld military equipment and some of the intelligence sharing that they've been giving them throughout the war. Here's Donald Trump talking about Zelensky.
Well, I think what's going to happen is Ukraine wants to make a deal because I don't think they have a choice. I also think that Russia wants to make a deal because in a different way that only I know, they have no choice either.
So Donald Trump showing a little bit of his hand there, but he's saying that Russia has no choice either. And I think that he knows that he can leverage Russia too. And he's gone. I think that's why he wanted to have some conversations with Russia first. And Zelensky was having a meltdown because of it, is Trump wanted to get some kind of sense of what Russia needed to come to the table. And he already knew that he could leverage Zelensky without any issue. He knows he can leverage Russia too, but it's going to be a little more difficult. And he was trying to get an idea of what he needed to bring to the table, or how he could twist their arm as well. And it seems like he figured that out. So then we have our Secretary of Defense, who is talking, Pete Hegseth, who is talking about some of the aid and military knowledge that they're withholding the military intelligence, I should say, that they're withholding from Ukraine just temporarily.
Resupplying Ukraine with weapons, or have the taps been turned off permanently?
Oh, as the president has pointed out, it is a pause. Exactly what he said from the beginning, pause pending a true commitment to a path to peace. The president is paying a very keen eye to precisely what the Ukrainians are saying and doing about committing to that peace process, and we're very encouraged by the signs we're seeing. Ultimately, he will make the determination, but it is a pause for now.
So he's just explaining that this is a pause in aid and a pause in sharing of military intelligence. And both of those things are some of the items that Donald Trump is using for leverage to make sure that Zelensky comes to the table and that this war doesn't continue to drag on. Now, we've got a couple of different foreign leaders here who are now spouting off about this, and they seem to be worried that there's going to be peace in the United States, which is like kind of crazy. So we got French President Emmanuel Macron and Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen, who are talking about this peace deal, and they seem to be concerned that there may be peace in Ukraine, almost as if they want the war to continue and more people to die. Interesting take. I'll read you. Macron's is not in English, but the Danish Prime Minister's is.
I don't think we should panic, but I think we are in a hurry. And I think we have been in a hurry for 3 years, but now we really have to scale up and to speed up because Russia and Putin is not only threatening Ukraine, but all of us. And we have to be able to defend ourselves. My idea about Ukraine is the same as it has been now for 3 years, that they have to win this war. And if we allow Russia to win the war, I'm sorry to say it directly to all of you, he will continue and they will continue. And maybe we will even give them a better situation than today, because if we end this war now with some kind of a frozen conflict, a ceasefire, it will give Russia the possibility to return to Russia, to mobilize more funds, people, and maybe to attack another country in Europe.
So, it's kind of confusing. You got to break it down a little bit, because she starts off saying basically they need to fight, they need to ramp this up and end the conflict. So it makes it sound like she wants peace. But in the end, she's saying, well, if we end it, then it actually gives Russia a chance to come back again even stronger. And so what her point is and how you have to break it down is she's talking about we can't let Russia win, okay? And it all comes down to her interpretation of what winning is. She's saying winning means that Russia basically gets no territory. They walk away with this with no military strength left and the inability to come back and attack again. That is an impossible situation. And if that situation was possible, guess what? Maybe the Ukraine could have made that situation happen. The European countries could have made that situation happen, but it's not going to happen. So she's setting the bar impossibly high on purpose so that anything that falls short of this is going to be a failure. And that's going to be the same standard they try to hold Trump to in this negotiation. Anything that Ukraine gives up at even a little tiny bit is going to be talked about as a failure in this. And it's an impossible standard. So they're already set up to say Trump failed. He didn't make a good deal. He, stuck it to Ukraine, gave everything to Russia. It's just ridiculous. And they again set up to fail. So this is Emmanuel Macron, which I'll read to you the captions because it's not in English. The war in Ukraine has now been going on for more than 3 years. From day one, we decided to support Ukraine and penalize Russia. We did the right thing because it is not only the people, Ukrainian, who is fighting courageously for his freedom, but it is also our security, which is under threat. Indeed, if a country can invade its neighbor in Europe with impunity, then nobody can be sure of anything. The survival of the fittest applies. Peace can no longer be guaranteed on our continent. History has taught us that. Beyond Ukraine, the Russian threat is there and affects the countries of Europe. It touches us. Russia has already turned the Ukrainian conflict into a global conflict. It mobilized North Korean soldiers in our continent, Iranian equipment, with helping these countries arm themselves further. President Putin's Russia violates our borders to commit murder. Opponents manipulate elections in Romania, Moldavia, and Russia. It organized cyber attacks against our hospitals to block its operation. Russia is trying to manipulate our opinions with lies being spread on social networks, and basically it tests our limits. It does so in the air, at sea, in space, and beyond our screens. The aggression seems to know no bounds. And Russia, at the same time, continues to rearm, spending more than 40% of its budget for this purpose. It plans to increase its army even further between now and 2030, and to have additional 300,000 soldiers, 3,000 tanks, and 300 more fighter planes. In this context, who can believe that today's Russia will stop in Ukraine? Russia has become, as I speak, and for years to come, a threat to France and to Europe. I deeply regret this. And I'm convinced that in the long term, peace will be established on our continent with a Russia that has become peaceful and calm once again. But that is the situation I'm describing, and we have to make the best of it. All right, so his stance isn't as severe as the Prime Minister of the Danish country, but he's still kind of not accepting the premise that Donald Trump can go in and make peace. And again, it seems like the standard is impossibly high. So it's essentially a lose-lose. I mean, he's talking about the fact that they need to be invested in this because Russia could attack them next. And that's absolutely true, but it only brings up one question, is why did you wait this long to take a bigger part in all this, right? Like, why didn't you involve yourself further? Why didn't you spend more money on your defense before this point? Oh, right. It's because the U.S. had your back and you counted on us carrying the weight of the world as usual, which is no good. So we also had a special envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, who had a press conference today. He's talking a little bit about, he talked some about the Ukraine deal, but most of what we're going to show the clip today is about the Hamas and Israel. And he's talking about the fact that the Hamas has basically got a way out of here without being completely destroyed if they, submit to the terms of the Trump administration, which I'm not really sure I believe, but I think that he has to say it at least. But he's saying the hostages have been in a terrible situation and need to be released, and that these people have been completely inhumane. But the key part of this is the part where he talks about not testing Donald Trump.
And so we'll see how they're going to react. The president has issued a statement about what's acceptable to him and what's not. And hopefully we'll see some good conduct next week, and I'll be able to go in there and have discussions.
Steve, is the three-phase kind of agreement framework still in place, or did the president's troop social kind of up in that?
Well, I would say that the president basically was saying, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think it's fairly clear he was saying, I've had enough. Like, there's a lot of mistreatment. There's a lot of conversation among these hostages about the deprivation that they went through, about murders that they saw. And I think that the president listened to it, absorbed it, and said, it's unacceptable. I'm not going to tolerate this type of behavior.
So what does that mean for phase two negotiations?
I don't think I don't think, as the president has said before, I don't think you alert everybody how you're going to negotiate or what your reaction's going to be. Steve. But I wouldn't test President Trump.
Steve, what is the bottom line? What happens when? And what's the bottom line for President Trump? And what happens? Does the U.S. authorize someone to take action, or does the U.S. take action?
Well, I think it's unclear exactly what's going to happen. I think there's going to be some action taken. It could be jointly with the Israelis. It's unclear right now, but I think Hamas has an opportunity to act reasonably, to do what's right, and then to walk out. They're not going to be a part of a government there. Everybody understands that, and that is implicit in the May 27th protocol agreement pursuant to which these negotiations are happening. So I think they have to understand that, and if they understand that, then they get a path to leave.
So he basically says that they would be allowed to leave Gaza and not be completely destroyed, demolished, obliterated. I believe that hard. I find that hard to believe. And kind of it's because he's like, we're counting on them being civil and being more humane. And obviously we know that as a no starter for the Hamas. They haven't treated anybody like this ever. These people are not, they're not civilized people. They are essentially cave dwellers. I mean, they lived underground. We saw their tunnels. So these people cannot be counted on. They don't even treat their own people with civility. They've stolen every dollar of aid that has gone into their country and put it towards making missiles to attack the Jewish people and anybody with Western ideology. And that's why there's literally walls surrounding the Gaza Strip, because every country has put up walls to keep these people out, because they know that they are a cancer within any society that they enter. So the likelihood of this turning out the way that he's describing is not very likely, but more hostages we can save in the process, the better, obviously. So that's what's going on in the Middle East. Now we've got Donald Trump. Of course, this weekend we're going to be changing our clocks back again, losing an hour. And the ridiculousness of this whole scenario has got an overwhelming number of people in the United States just tired of doing this. And we don't know why. Nobody can explain why it is. We'll keep going back into history, saving oil and saving electricity, the farmers. There's all kinds of stories you hear, and they're all kind of silly at this point where we are with technology and all that. Here's Donald Trump talking about it. Of course, this was one of his campaign promises, but now he's talking about the fact that there's a disagreement between people who would like to keep daylight savings time all the time and people who would like to keep standard time all the time.
The clocks are going to spring forward on Sunday. When are you going to get rid of daylight savings?
Okay, are you ready? So, this should be the easiest one of all, but it's a 50-50 issue. And if something's a 50-50 issue, it's hard to get excited about it. I assume people would like to have more light later, but some people want to have more light earlier because they don't want to take their kids to school in the dark. And it's a little bit one way, but it's very much a 50-50 issue. And it's something I can do, but a lot of people like it one way, a lot of people like it the other way. It's very even. And usually I find when that's the case, what else do we have to do?
And much to my sadness, it sounds like this is no longer a priority for him to get done. Now, he may just be trying to feel out maybe what's the more popular opinion. I think personally, if you pick anything, either one, like personally, I'd like to keep daylight savings time, because for me, the winter's dark no matter what you do. So just don't mess with it. Nobody goes outside anyways. And our lights are on all day, most of the time anyways. So who cares? Keep daylight savings time. Make it light later in the summer where we can get more accomplished outside, where, there's not a ton of people getting up super early in the morning. He talks about, parents don't want their kids going on the bus in the dark. Well, that is going to happen for most of the winter, regardless of what you do at the time, because there's just so few hours of daylight, and plus most of it's cloudy, at least where I live, anyways, keeping it darker for most of the day. So I say, this should be the last time we change our clocks. Keep it that way forever, and let's be done with it. So now the left is freaking out. They did their 24-hour buying blackout, I think is what they called it, and they said not to buy anything for 24 hours. Their point was all these stores are now ditching DEI because it's a waste of money, because Trump has pointed out that it is completely useless. The American public as a whole has turned against DEI because we realize how ridiculous it is and that it's racist and sexist, because you're basing your hiring practices, promotional practices on basically factors of what you look like or who you are instead of what your capabilities are, like a meritocracy-based system, which is how it should be. You earn your place. You earn your promotions. You earn a job, or whatever else you're doing is all earned. That's meritocracy. That's what our country was founded on. And so these companies are ditching it. And Target, of all places, is the one that they're choosing to target, no pun intended, but they're going after Target probably because they see it as a weak link, that probably they're one of these soft companies that got rid of DEI, and they think they can flip them back. So they're going to boycott it for 40 days now. I don't know if it's coinciding with Lent or what they're trying to do, but they're trying to make them pay for getting rid of DEI. Here's the news story about that.
Companies roll back DEI initiatives. Black Hoosiers are speaking out, and they're starting by boycotting Target.
We will not support businesses that refuse to support us.
Just one day after a 24-hour nationwide economic blackout from retailers who rolled back DEI initiatives, local Hoosiers gathered to announce a fast from Target for Lent.
We're going to spend time not just spiritually fasting, but we're also going to economically boycott Target for 40 days. So people have already committed to it, signed up, so we're excited about trying to make a difference.
Reverend David Green is leading the local effort. It's a part of a nationwide spiritual act of resistance started by faith leaders and activists.
People understand the bottom line, which is money. And so we know that stock prices have already started to drop.
In January, Target joined the list of major retailers retreating from DEI efforts.
It totally erased really what the civil rights movement did.
The retailers' rollback follows President Trump's push at the federal level to halt DEI initiatives. Governor Mike Braun also following suit at the local level, signing an executive order to replace DEI with Merit Excellence and Innovation, or MEI.
We're directing agencies to examine policies and procedures to ensure compliance with recent Supreme Court ruling, and we are closing the Chief Equity, Inclusion, and Opportunity Office.
It's a move 20-year business owner Kyle Bibbs thinks will hurt him and other minority businesses.
We had a seat at the table with those programs, and with them going away, we may not have that same opportunity, a lot of uncertainty.
That feeling is why Bibbs joined the Call to Action rally on Saturday.
It just can't be today, can't be for the next 40 days. It has to be something that's going to be continuous.
We have to do a multifaceted steps in terms of pushing back. This is just step number one.
It's not just about Target.
Nadja Woods, WRTV.
And so he's talking about not having that seat at the table anymore. I think what he's talking about is not that they won't have a seat at the table. They won't have a booster seat at the table, because that is what DEI does, is it gives you an elevated position in either a company or like college applications or loan applications, things that you may not qualify for if you were a different race or gender. Now, if you're in a specific category, you would qualify for it. What does that tell you? That tells you that they're getting a leg up, not equal playing field, which is where we should be at this point. There is no rationale behind giving somebody a boost, and a better position just because of the color of their skin or what gender they are or what country they're from. You know, if we give it an elevated status to illegal immigrants, I bet the black people wouldn't be very happy either, because now they're getting pushed in the back. And actually, that is what really is happening with some of these social services that were being given to these illegal immigrants, is it was actually pushing some disadvantaged black people from housing and from different services, because the illegal immigrants were pushing them out. And the black people weren't too happy about it, which is why a lot of them voted for Donald Trump in numbers we hadn't really seen before for Republican support. So it's kind of interesting. And in the last piece, you heard that guy says, well, this isn't just about Target, which is kind of foreshadowing, saying, if Target caves, guess what? We're going after Walmart next, or we'll go after Home Depot next, or we'll go after somebody else that they determine is the weak link, and they'll continue on after someone else. And it'll just keep going down the road, which is what already happened. I think we've already tried that and it's failed. And now I don't think DEI will come back again, except in some of these leftist government agencies that just, you know, they're getting a ton of votes based on this. And so their incentive structure is to keep it around, but they never really believed in it anyways. So it's all for show. And in our last couple clips of the day, we got to get back to how cringe the left is. We saw a clip a couple days ago of them all doing a TikTok or short video of saying the same thing with the same microphone and the same clips behind it. And I may even had the same music. I don't even know, but they had the same script, and it was cringe and dumb. I mean, it wasn't even entertaining. And you had to know that somebody was going to clip all this stuff together and make a montage out of it, right? Because that's what we do. So now they've got a thing calling Choose Your Fighter. And then there's a Choose Your Fighter Senior Edition, which I'm not sure if that's real or a parody, but it's kind of hilarious, actually. But I'm going to show you the first one first, which is the original, real one.
Choose your character.
You could tell that none of these people have been in a fight in their life because, man, if that's going to be your stature going into a fight, you are cooked. But anyways, it's just cringe, man. They're like, they're trying to make a spin off a video game, and it's just so cringe. It's deflating. I feel sad for them. I'm actually embarrassed just watching that. It's like, well, that clip was we are all dumb, a little bit dumber for just having to listen to you speak. Well, we all feel a little bit dumber just having to watch that. Anyways, this is the senior edition of that, which is actually kind of funny.
Choose your character.
Yeah, so after watching that again for like the 50th time, that's definitely a parody, but it is hilarious. Especially, I think 2 of them died or something like that. I'm not really sure what happened to, let's see, it was Al Green, which we saw removed from the congressional speech the other day. And of course, Bernie Sanders, who looked like he collapsed clutching his chest. So, RIP in the chats, I guess. But obviously a parody. I wouldn't laugh at their actual deaths, but whatever. Make fun of me for laughing at their fake death too. I don't know, whatever you're going to say, but it is a funny parody. It kind of just points out how you can take the cringe and make fun of it, and then we can enjoy it, which is what we have to continue to do. So that's the entertaining clips of the day, I suppose. Anyways, thanks for joining me today for this episode of Spark the Conversation. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share with a friend, leave a comment below. Come back tomorrow for another edition. I should hopefully have time to do an edition tomorrow, maybe a little bit shorter, but come back and check that out. And don't forget, as I always say, most importantly, go out and volunteer for something important and meaningful. And as always, spark the conversation.